Hello and welcome to Daily Dose Radio, a 5-minute-a-day podcast studying the Psalms verse by verse, recorded here in the dining room of the Bible Bistro, located in Sharonville, Ohio. Hey there friends, welcome back to Daily Dose Radio here in the Bible Bistro, and today in the Bible Bistro on Daily Dose Radio, we're going to be studying Psalm 44 Part 2. Now last week we did Part 1. You'll remember last week we ended with the 7 curses that he records for us. And we're going to talk about those curses again today because they come into play in some of the very same languages used as he prays here in Psalm 44. We're going to see a connection to the New Testament in this half of Psalm 44. And we're going to probably experience some of the same questions that the psalmist had because he asked some very important questions here in this particular part of the psalm. So another reason why I wanted to break it up, because we needed to look at the first half, which had to do with the teaching of the fathers and all that produced leading up to the second half, which is the struggle that Israel is going through, especially the psalmist, as he looks at all the trouble that they've had. This is a psalm for the sons of Korah. It is a maskil, which means it's a teaching psalm. And so we are going to learn something very important here in this psalm. So we begin here today in verse 15. Now today I'm going to read 15 and 16. And we're going to do about 2 verses apiece through the week. On Wednesday we'll have 3 and on Friday we'll have 3. But we're going to take it as, Daily Dose Radio style, a verse at a time, and go through here and find out what the psalmist has to say. So let me begin with verse 15. My confusion is continually before me, and the shame of my face has covered me. For the voice of him that reproacheth and blasphemeth by reason of the enemy and avenger. Now, the psalmist is lamenting the fact that the enemy and the avenger is doing his job. Of course he is. And he says there at the very beginning, my confusion is continually before me. This is a theme now that we're going to see going through the second half of this psalm, because he ends down here in verse 24 with the why question. He's confused about why all this is happening. Why the 7 curses? Why has this come upon us? If you go back to verse 9, there was a break. There was a Selah at the end of verse 8. And in verse 8, we have a very confident confession. Actually, the entire thing from 4 to 8 is all confession here. I'm going to push down my enemies. I'm not going to trust my bow, but I'm going to trust in you because you save us from our enemies. You put them to shame that hate us. We boast in you. We praise your name forever. So all of that, 4 through 8, is this confession. And then we come to 9 after the Selah, and he says, but you've cast us off, and you've put us to shame, and you don't go with our armies. And then we have the 7 curses that he mentions. And then we come to verse 15, he says, my confusion is continually before me. He doesn't understand. Why is it that all of this bad stuff has happened when their fathers have taught them well, and they've confessed well, and they've lived well? They think something is wrong, but he doesn't know what it is. He's confused. Why is it that the enemies are oppressing us when we believe that you're going to save us from our enemies? Why is the enemy reproaching us when they've put us to shame? How come, and they're putting us to shame, and we believe that you'll put them to shame? So he's very confused. He says, my confusion is continually before me, which reminds me of Psalm 51, verse 3, when he says, my sin is ever before me. But again, this is different because his confusion, and he's right to be confused. Why is it that God has allowed all this to come on them? For the voice of him that reproacheth and blasphemeth by reason of the enemy and avenger. So you'll notice again the reproach. This is the curse number 6 in verse 13. They're being reproached. Why is this happening? How has this come to pass? Why is shame covering the face of the psalmist when they made a real good confession? They believed and the fathers have taught them well. What's going on here? Well, we're going to continue to consider that question as we make our way through the remainder of the psalm. So I hope you'll join me tomorrow as we look at verses 17 and 18 here on Daily Dose Radio. Thanks for listening to Daily Dose Radio. For more fresh and delicious Bible studies, podcasts, books, and more, check out the Bible Bistro online and on YouTube. Join me again next time for Daily Dose Radio.